What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Game Cast. This is episode 72, actually. I am one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Hello, everybody.
And we are back. Says Mr. Q a little bit. It's all good, though. We're here. We are here. Um, First of all,
Barely.
happy Thanksgiving, because we're recording this the day before Thanksgiving. We usually record on Thursdays, but we decided to move it up a little bit because, the holiday and whatnot. So you're going to be hearing this after the holiday or during, you know, get the family
Yeah.
around and eat turkey while you listen to us talk about Cowboy Bebop. That's a good time right there. I would pay for that side of a good time. Like hearing
Yeah,
us
true.
talk, it's awesome.
True.
Anyways, we have a dope show for you today, talking about a lot of different content. If you are a nerd about anything, whether it's Marvel, anime, manga, uh, you know, ghosts. There's stuff to talk about. The new Hawkeye show is out now. The on Disney Plus. Cowboy Bebop finally dropped on Netflix. Ghostbusters Afterlife is out. There's so much content to talk
Hmm.
about, which means we're gonna be around. We're gonna be around for a long time. We just have so many things to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is I guess I'll start out on a high note. I got to see Ghostbusters Afterlife this past week, and it was I think it's my favorite film of the year. Um,
Oh, that's great.
it's such a good time, and I know like if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's got like I think like a 65 right now, and I
Hmm.
get the criticism. I'm actually not upset about what was said, because even if I granted, I think I would have scored it better, but even if I was doing it, I think I would have been critical about certain things just because when you are describing a film to someone versus writing critically and you have to basically talk about everything, like you kind of
Hmm.
have to lay it all out. Like if I were to review the Black Panther film, I love that film, but some of the CGI not so good. So I can understand like having to be, more critical. That being
Hmm.
said, screw the score. Awesome film. If you like I said all of that to say this, screw the score. If you like Ghostbusters, the first film and the second film,
Hmm.
you will like this. Hopefully you will like this film. I'm not gonna say you will because there some
Hmm.
people out there who just gotta be different. But I like this film a lot. The acting was great. Visually, they did a really good job of making the ghosts feel like they belong in the Ghostbusters world because there's different treatment for ghosts, and even the Ghostbuster film that came out with the all women, their ghosts look good too. But this
Hmm.
really I think nailed it nostalgia wise. The music was great, the acting from everybody was great, and the pacing was really dope too. This is a serious movie. It's not as I mean there's funny moments,
Hmm.
but it's not comical in a sense to say that it's a comedy, and I think that's a good idea. A lot of people were kind of trashing the trailers because they were saying that it was too serious. It doesn't share the same tone as the original Ghostbusters.
Hmm.
And I think this is wise. I think it was wise for them to go their own route because trying to recreate the magic of the first film, this is something I said on Twitter, is not possible. Having all those
Yeah.
actors, all those comedians together, all the ad libbing, the different timing, the fact that the movie was almost not even called Ghostbusters because they didn't have the license yet. Like there's so many things that kind of went wrong in a magical way to create the first film
Uh-huh.
that there's no way you can do it. Even those actors couldn't do it in the sequel. When the sequel came out, and I love the sequel, it's not as good as the first one. And then
Uh-huh.
we saw what happened with the third one that came out that wasn't. Yeah, I'm not going to go there, but trying to recreate it and follow the same story beats, it just wouldn't work. And
Hmm.
so what they did was they created a real sequel in that it follows the third film. I'm sorry, the second film. So like the third film doesn't exist. It's just the first and the second one,
Hmm.
and kind of usher you into this world of what's happening since the Ghostbusters have kind of faded away.
Hmm.
And they do a solid job. Um, and it still has, it ties back into the other films with who the main villains are
Hmm.
and what happened with the other Ghostbusters. There's a dope cameo that they did that I thought was done really well. And yeah, I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it, but there's just so many good things. And oh, the actress who played Phoebe, I think her name is McKenna Grace or
Mhm.
McKenna Grace.
Mhm.
Awesome. She stole the show whenever she was on screen. Shout out to her. I want to see her in other films. If they do make a sequel, which I think they will, based on
Mhm.
the post credit sequence and stuff like that, I want to see her in the next film. She did an amazing job. And then Finn from you would know this guy from Stranger Things. He plays the love interest of I forgot her name. Her name just fell out of my head. But he's one of the main characters in Stranger Things. He's in this film as well. You saw him in the trailers. He does a good job. Not as good as Grace, but he does a good job.
Mhm.
But you also have some cameos from the original Ghostbusters. You have some, like the Ecto One is there, and just everything is great. Like I didn't, because there's a lot of talking. There aren't as many ghosts as the other movies, and there's a narrative reason for that. But it was not boring at all. Like just a really good time from start to end. Everybody, like people clapped at the end of the film. That's how dope it was. It will pull your heartstrings. And again, this only really matters if you care about the Ghostbusters. If you
Mhm.
don't, then you're not. You're like, oh, whatever. But if you like the characters and even watching the cartoon, even I think you would have a good time with it. So definitely go check that out. It's in movie theaters right now. I actually bought it already.
Oh, wow.
There is so I have the physical copies of Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and on Vudu they have a bundle where you can get the digital versions of both plus to this film. So I just bought them right after I left the movie theater. I don't even think I left the parking lot before I bought it. So yeah, definitely Ghostbusters Afterlife. I gives it a two thumbs up. That
Oh,
being said, I do need to throw this in there real quick. I saw the first episode of Hit Monkey, and for people who don't
okay.
know, it's the Marvel show that's on Hulu that is about a monkey turned hitman. It's bananas as it should be, but I am disappointed in the animation. I am super disappointed in the animation because of the company that produced it. It is done by Floyd County Productions. If that name sounds familiar, it's because they do Archer. I don't know what happened with Hitmonkey, and I don't know if they were stretched too thin because they're still working on the current, the next season of Archer or whatever the case may be. But Hitmonkey visually looks like Archer, but it doesn't move like Archer. I don't know, like I say frame rate, but that's
Mhm.
probably not what it is. But it looks like the frame rate is so bad that it looks like I'm watching a bunch of GIFs.
Oh,
Like
God.
I was like, this is really. Is anybody else seeing? Like I looked around. Obviously, no one was here, but I just looked around. Like, is anybody else seeing this? Like, this is this is bad. And I was shocked because I was like, wait, this can't be the same company. I was like, this is another company that's doing the Archer thing, but they can't really get it just yet. I was like, no, this is that studio. This is the animation studio. Wait, what? Atlanta, Georgia? Yeah, that's them. That's
Yeah.
why. Why is this so bad? I felt so much of a way, and I didn't even continue after the first episode. And the first episode
Wow.
was interesting. It was very interesting about how this monkey turns into a hitman, but it just wasn't. Yeah, it's not even early Archer. Like early Archer and now isn't the same. Like it's
It's
animated better.
different. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like this is.
That's debatable.
Oh, we're really.
I say, sorry for my interjection. No, but it's debatable because in the beginning, the style of Archer that it was versus what it is now was actually really funny.
It
Like,
was. It
we say that
was.
it's better because, oh, like things are smoother and color, all the things that are better.
Right.
But it being drawn the way it was drawn back then added to the humor. It really did. So I
Yeah,
have
this adds nothing. This it was so like honestly, it was noticeable to the point of distraction. Like I was
Mm,
being pulled out of whatever was happening on screen because of the frame rate. It just bugged, and it was something like how we talk about anime on Netflix, that studio that does a lot of Netflix's anime, and how during action scenes things are fine, but during regular scenes, like it seems like they cut the frames down, and it's noticeable. This is worse. Like, holy moly. I'm not gonna say don't watch it, like, because some people like it. I've been seeing people online talk about it, but
Hmm.
I don't think I'm gonna finish. Like, it hurt my eyes after a point, and
Yeah.
I don't know. And I was thinking maybe I don't think because it said pilot. I don't know if it gets better, so I'll just throw that out there. But the first impression was so bad that I just can't do it. I can't do it. So that's just two experiences I've had this past week. One amazing and one not so. You were able to check out the new show from Riot Games on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet. The
Yeah.
Arcane, right?
I watched Arcane. Hmm.
You said it was good. You said it was good.
I'm gonna step out on a limb here and say it was excellent.
Oh wow. Okay.
Um, and I don't want to say that just because I'm on like a little high or something. I just to let you guys know, I do have to take certain medications to get through recording. Um, because I have a brain injury. So yes, that is a thing. No, I mean what I mean from that is it's really it I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, like, and this is coming from me who actually was pissed off in the beginning. Like, I was just like, oh, here we go, video game animated, like, give me the bad story already. And
Right.
I felt a certain way through the first 3 episodes, which is a shame because by the time I finished the show, I was like, this show is so good. And I'm going to go back, watch the show again, especially to pick up on all the little things that I didn't pick up before. And to do further analysis of the characters because I love doing that.
Right.
But also because it was important for me to forgive what I thought was bad. Like I needed to like this show, yeah, besides the fact that it took them apparently 6 years to create this, which I can understand, but
Yeah.
6 years to create this entire 9 episode sh amazing computer animated show, which is it's just so good with characters that you don't know because, you do not have to know anything about League of Legends to watch this show.
Yeah.
You just really don't, at all. And they introduced so many characters that are not part of the lore at all, that are and which was great, especially for the actors, because, a bunch of the actors that were interviewed, when they found out they were going to be playing characters that nobody knew about, they were happy. They were like, "Oh, yes, thank you. And I don't have to live up to any, crazy fans' expectations." Because
Right.
it's hard to, play somebody and not do it right. Come on, I remember when Hugh Jackman was cast as Wolverine and people were like, "What?" And then he showed
Right.
us. Oh, he showed us.
He did. He
There
did.
there's no one else. There was no one born for that but him, and we all know that there was only one other person born for any role, and that was Patrick Stewart, because when he came out, when he was literally pushed out into this world, the doctor said, "It's a boy, and it's also Professor X."
Right. One day
So,
he will play Professor X.
that's before it was even written. So, anyway, um I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's 9 episodes. I think each episode's about an hour or an hour, I can't remember now, but it's very good. It is very dark, and I do like dark. Um, but it is very dark, and I think that when you initially watch it, like, you probably watch the first episode, and a lot of people might think I don't mind watching stuff that's for all age genres. Except
Right.
that WB shit. I'm sorry, I cannot get into those, like, I draw the line there,
Wait, what
okay?
WB stuff? What you
The
talking?
100 is one of the stupidest shows I've ever seen. I can never do that again.
Oh gosh.
I never watched Pretty Little Liars. I don't know anything about that nonsense. Um, I can't do those teen shows.
Oh yeah,
They're
nah, yeah, nah.
horrible. They're just bad. So anyway, moving on. Again, like I said, I don't mind watching shows for all genre, like all ages, except that. But so when the first episode I'm watching, I'm like, okay, maybe it's for a younger audience. I did get that feeling, video game show, maybe, it could be
Right.
teenagers because it introduces the first several characters and they're young, introduces them as children, tragedy, and then you see them as older children and causing a ruckus. So, and you kind of just go along with it. And I had a lot of emotions about the characters. And in the beginning, I had a lot of anger towards a specific character. And that kind of like carried on. And I was just like, oh, you pissed me off. Like everything's wrong because of you. And if you hear me saying this now and you've watched it, it's probably not who you think. So I'm like really irritated on this one character. And I'm just like, this is annoying. Ugh. And then I had also read the synopsis on accident. I read the synopsis, I think, by the time I watched the second episode. So off air, I was talking to Kenny about kind of how I watched it. I think I watched the first episode by itself first, and then I ended up seeing like 2 and 3, and then like 4 together because like I wasn't feeling well, and I ended up having to split the time. So I remember being like, okay. I actually had this sentiment that I felt like they took too long to get to the third episode. I was like, oh, this could have been done in 2 episodes. In fact, it could have been done in 1. That's a ghost. Okay, I just want to let you know in the background, there's a ghost, and that's why my dog is barking. Pretty sure. Hey, stop that. Ghost, stop it, Ghost. Ghost is trying to get water.
We gotta buy a studio. Once we get our monies right, we'll have a studio, and we'll have him in a soundproof booth, so you won't be able to hear him in the background.
Oh, the ghost or the dog? Because I mean,
I mean, if I don't know. Like the ghost has to pay rent. The dog is cool. If the ghost's gonna come, he has to pay something. Like you just can't be here.
Can't just be here. That's so creepy. Like not even like creepy because there's a ghost in your house. No, it's like, dude, how you just gonna stay up here and you not even gonna help me? You know I'm struggling. You know I ain't at work right now because my brain's not working right, and you just gonna stay up in here rent free? That's not cool.
Yeah, you see everything. Like you got to do something. You can't.
Yeah, it's not okay.
Or go haunt someone else. You can't do that.
Wasting water. He's making the faucet drip. Moving on. So like I said, I was kind of irritated with the character, and then I read a synopsis, and the synopsis, which it's on there, and it was like, oh, 2 sisters fighting on opposite ends, and I was just like, I just was so turned off. I don't know, I was just irritated, and and I just felt a certain type of way, and I was like, okay, get to it, because like you put it in the synopsis, right? Don't waste my time. Don't take me 3 hours to figure out how they end up on opposite sides of a war, right?
Right.
So, by episode 3, it's like, okay, fine. We figured out, we get there. And I'm like, you could have done this in 2 episodes. If you guys were really good, you could have done it in 1, but definitely 2. Okay. So I'm going to stop that, my critique right there. Okay. Because then I watched the rest of the show. And by the time the show was over, I'm like, this show could have gone so many different directions. They wrote in so many possible vectors. So many ways this could have gone. Like it could have gone anywhere. And I guess that's what you get when you have a blank slate. But it could have, like any move from any character could have had the story go anywhere. When you thought it was going to go one way, it didn't. Like I was sitting there thinking it was going to be predictable in the beginning. And I was like, of course, X, Y, Z. And then it was like, wait, what? Oh, ooh, okay. And that's how I felt. So anyway, my point is I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was excellent animation. This is Studio Fortiche. I think it's a French, French animation studio.
Mm-hmm.
That Riot's been working with for several years now. I guess they started with one of their music videos that they did some time ago. And I gotta say, from I guess they've come a long way, because from what they did a few years ago to like what they just accomplished now is absolutely amazing. This show is beautiful. It like I really can't complain. Um the characters are, I mean, I can nitpick, but I'm not going to. I just don't see the purpose. Well, okay. I will nitpick in our in-depth review. We're not going to go into our in-depth review because Kenny actually hasn't watched it, and I do want him to see it so that we can talk some more. We're also going to bring in a guest who has also seen it, because we love to get our nerds on here to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yep.
But there are some nitpicks about animation that I have, but I always think that has something to do with how many people you've got in the room who look like you, and also what a studio knows how to do. So
Right.
there's that, but I'm not really going to bring that up right now, except for the fact that, I'm sorry, homegirl, black homegirl, that for when they show this girl in all of her glory, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Look at this black woman. I'm cosplaying her. Mel Medarda is my chick, and I will be cosplaying her when I lose 30 pounds. Because she is thebomb.com, and my hair is already halfway there. I did think it was weird that like they have part of her hair coiled so it looks like dreadlocks, but then the back is not. It's kind of interesting. But
Supposed to be
that's
because this is supposed to be in a, I don't know, like futuristic type time zone or
it's steampunk. I
steampunk. Oh,
wouldn't call it
okay.
futuristic. It's steampunk, and it's on a totally different planet.
Ah,
League of
okay.
Legends takes place on Runeterra, so I mean, you can think of it as Earth, but
I see.
if you want to, because it looks like Earth, but um,
And this
it
is a
takes.
prequel to the game.
You can say that. You can say it's a prequel to one part of the game. Not, I wouldn't say the whole thing, since I guess the game has been going on for quite some time. But there are so many different lands, so I
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say it's a prequel to the game. I think it's a prequel to specific characters and the story of Piltover and Zaun. I can't say that it's a prequel to the other cities, because it's not. I doubt that. Because there's a character in this series who mentioned something about how magic is bad, and that he's lived for 300 years, and he's seen the bad things that magic can do. So we should assume that he's lived prior to the history of where we're
Right.
starting. Um,
Okay. So a bit of
yeah,
origin story of these particular characters in this world. Um,
exactly.
that's
So
what's up.
yeah, and two of the main characters, obviously the characters that Netflix wants you to focus on are the sisters Vi and Powder. And Powder is voiced by a girl named Mia Sinclair Jenis. She is fantastic. And I cannot, I cannot express how good this girl is. So just be very, like, when you hear this girl, and you watch how the show is animated, how they took all these efforts to make these facial expressions um happen, and her emotions, like, you just, everything comes through so well, and I truly appreciate how she managed to do specific scenes. Like, once you watch it, Kenny, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's just like, this was really good. This was good acting. And apparently, it took them a long time to do casting. Apparently they went through several casting directors, like they fired people
Oh wow.
because they weren't getting what they wanted. um but at the end of the day, they did a great job. And one of the actors that I love, okay, and I didn't know this until like the second episode. The guy who voices a character named Victor is Harry Lloyd, and I love him. Harry Lloyd, if you don't know, played Viserys on Game of Thrones. Of course,
Right.
most people hate Viserys. Yeah, Viserys is a piece of shit, but I always have a soft spot for him because of what he went. The reason why Viserys is the way he is because he has a backstory that doesn't get any play in the show. So
I
I
wonder if
feel I
he's gonna
felt
be in if he's gonna be in the because
prequel.
HBO's doing the prequel show.
I don't know, because he's, I mean, like, unless unless they're doing if they do the more recent, like if they show the whole Rayella escaping from King's Landing and going to Dragonstone so she can have her baby type shit, then maybe. But otherwise there's no point. There's
Right.
they would need to show Rhaegar's relationship with Elia and answer the question, Rhaegar, why couldn't you sneak Elia and those kids off to, mind you, he got one out, but why couldn't you sneak the other? Anyway,
Right.
Rhaegar was going through a lot, y'all. I'm sorry. Forget the whole him trying to hide Lyanna because, he got her pregnant. That wasn't even the thing. His dad was off the chain and Rhaegar was just trying to live. So
Right.
I've said this before from the moment I started reading that book, that Rhaegar was my favorite character. People are like, what? You like Rhaegar? I was like, yeah, I do. And you'll never know why. And that's because I knew from like chapter 3 that this dude was not a bad guy. But that's okay. That's just part of my telekinesis. Moving on.
Wait. That's not how that works.
That's not how it works.
That's not how any of this works.
It's my telepathy. I'm sorry, I got my Jean Grey powers messed up.
Oh, goodness.
So anyway, what I was saying was excellent animation. I do not know how to stress this part, but I think, Kenny, you would really appreciate the animation because it's not just like good computer. It's like they've got 3D, they've got 2D, they've got 2D on 3D. And I love their shading because, like, how sometimes people do computer animation and try to make it look very realistic.
Yeah.
And, no, they still stuck with video game feel. Like they still stuck with, these are characters with like, big pieces of hair and thick eyebrows and large bodies and stuff like that. They still stuck with that, but their movements, the fluidity of their movements was outstanding. The character Jinx is a psychopath. She's basically a Harley Quinn. I don't want to say knockoff, but she's a Harley Quinn. And
got you.
And she does some really, really crazy stuff. And it's just really cool. The coloring, some of the things will remind you of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It was so good. Like, like the graffiti and then the 2D on top, which is really cool. Again, I said the story was really dark. So there are a lot of dark themes. There's mental illness. There's, betrayal between people who are supposed to be brothers. There's power struggles. Somebody who thinks they're doing the right thing, but maybe it's not the right thing for everybody. Then somebody else takes over and they're trying to do what they think is right. And, it's not like good versus evil. This is class war. This is people in a rich, thriving city versus people in what they call the undercity.
Right.
And a lot of it is just unfair. And there's shady ass deals being made. And a lot of people suffer for it. And sometimes, like, again, I've watched it twice and you can sit there and say, you know what, if you just never did this, this may never have happened. Like, you're trying to think of how people's lives could have gone a certain way.
Right.
And there's just so much back and forth. There's just like, oh my God, like, what? You think some people are bad. They're not. They do this really good job of shading people in the dark, like making them look like they have ulterior motives. And then it's not a letdown. It's not a letdown that they don't have ulterior motives. It's actually a good thing because you grew to like that person. You don't want them to be bad. And then, and then there's also like people who are like, you're like, I don't, there's really not more that I could say about it. I found it very, very fun. Very entertaining. I liked the stories. People said that they cried on certain episodes. I didn't go that far, but like,
Wow.
I just appreciated the amount of work that went into making these stories. And at the end of the day, people might love Frozen. If you like Frozen, you should like this. You should, because...
Okay, now I don't know how to feel. Wait, Frozen?
I'm saying that because, some people they loved Frozen because they're like, oh, it wasn't a love story with a prince and a princess. It was a sister's love. It was, love for the sister that did all. I'm like, well, then you should like this. It's so messed up.
Well, that
So,
okay. I will definitely check that out.
yeah.
Um, and quick note. This is we know Riot is going through the similar issues that Activision and Blizzard are going through. So we're not trying to skate around that. Uh, but this is something that has been, like you said, in the works for years, and we kind of want to talk about what has been presented. But we still know what's going on over there, and Riot has to basically come to terms with what's been happening and fix things. I believe the CEO, I believe, of Riot was recently um, is going to be taken to court for sexual harassment. So like,
Yeah, which
and
is
that was, I
great.
think that was like as of September, I think. So like,
Wow.
yeah, there's still things that are happening. So I just wanted to throw that out there. People think
Mhm.
like, we're talking about Riot because it seems like they're pumping out as much content as possible. And that's not necessarily the case because they were working on this before all the allegations,
Yeah.
but
For 6 years.
it kind of makes it because they, out of League of Legends, they're pulling a lot of stuff. Like they have a first person shooter, they have a fighting game coming out, they have all these
Mhm.
things that are in the League of Legends world
Mhm.
to kind of build this universe that they're creating.
Mhm.
And it just so happens that a lot of it is dropping now versus before. And
Mhm.
so just want to throw it out there that just because we're talking about something and highlighting how good it was, um, doesn't mean that we're skirting over the things that has been going on with
Right.
Riot. Because we also understand that Riot isn't, you know, in and of itself, even the company that they're working with, the animation company, not everybody is, I guess, in on these things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
True.
some of it is probably a surprise to the French animation studio. Like, oh, there's sexual harassment going on. It's like crap. Well, we have this thing in the oven that we're trying to cook for however long. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a rough spot for everybody in that predicament. So we still wanted to kind of talk about it in a positive way. If we felt positive, if we thought it was trash, we would tell you. But being
Oh,
that
totally.
yeah, being that Tess thinks it's good, we kind of wanted to highlight that as well. Moving on though, let's talk about Cowboy Bebop.
Let's please. Let's please
I'm gonna
talk
go
about this.
first
Go ahead.
because I'm a little bit more positive, and I say that not to say that Tess is gonna be negative. It's the idea that like,
I
I haven't.
am.
I, what I said, what I mean is, so Tess is going to be critical. She's going to be critical a little bit more than me, and I say
Mhm.
that just because I haven't finished it. I've only gotten to episode 4, and
Mhm.
I know, Kenny, you didn't do your homework.
She
Look,
did not.
there's a lot of crap coming out all the time, like, and this is just on the visual side. We're not talking
Mhm.
about interactive media. Like I've been playing, Halo. The Halo Infinite has come out, or at least the multiplayer
Mhm.
side has come out. I'm gearing up for the campaign that's going to come out on December 8th. Um, I've also been playing a bunch of other stuff, streaming some stuff. So like, yeah, there's a lot of things going on. There's a whole like video game top 10 list of the year and the game awards that are coming out that are going to be happening in December. A whole lot of
Yeah.
stuff to cover and talk about. So it's hard for me to see and watch everything. I haven't even watched the last episode of Insecure. And you know how I feel about Insecure.
I'm really upset with you right now.
So, with that being said, don't feel the way that I haven't watched all of Cowboy Bebop. I will get to it. I did watch, like I said, the first 3 episodes. I just started episode 4. And from what I can see, it's a campy show. I knew it was going to be campy. Like it's Cowboy Bebop. Doing this live action, I knew it was going to do that. And then seeing the trailers and whatnot, it's going to be campy. It's going to be corny. But at the same time, there was some endearing stuff here with the characters. I like the actors that they chose,
Mhm.
and I like especially for Spike and Jet Black. I think they did. I think they did a good job with the casting. They sound like how I would imagine them to sound if they were real people, outside of getting the American actor, voice actors. Um,
Mhm.
what I'm saying? In my head, like this is how they would sound. And so they do
Mhm.
a good job in that regard. I do think like the I guess the aesthetics work and don't work at times. Like there's times where I look at them like I like the old world almost Fallout style computers and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then there are times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely green screen, but not like a B film green screen. This is like a lot of money thrown at it green screen, but it doesn't look
Mhm.
that good.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what is it, Shotgun Milkshake? No, Gunpowder Milkshake. The
Gunpowder
that
Milkshake, yeah.
where the the part when they're in the diner and like you see like the environment around it and it looks like they're on, I don't know, like it looks like the world doesn't exist behind the diner, like visually just
Exactly.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's there's parts like that. So like where Spike is visiting a planet and he's going through the marketplace, he's looking for to get information about Vicious. It looks good. It looks like a place on Earth, but not that, not Earth. And there'll be times where he's at a bar and I'm like, oh, that looks okay. And then there's other times where he's fighting someone. Oh, I'm gonna get to the fights. When he's fighting someone and I'm like, oh, you're fighting in like, this looks like you're recording, your movements for a video game. Like
Mhm.
we're in a simulated environment, and I feel that that doesn't destroy anything for me. It's noticeable, and because I'm like, this is also could be like a play, like a thing that's happening. I get it. We
Mhm.
can only do with so much, and we're doing the best that we can with what we got. So I'm not going to necessarily trash it for that, but it is noticeable.
Mhm.
So I like a lot of the cheesiness and whatnot. Some of the lines are cringe. The blackmail line where the woman's like, Jet is like, you're blackmailing me, and she's like, yeah, I am because you're black and you're male. I wanted to throw my phone when I heard that. Um,
Everybody wanted to throw at, but even
it was
so, I've heard that line before. And
ah,
that's why it actually kind of even was more irritating because it's like, this isn't original.
so it's whack and it's not original. That's great.
Exactly.
Um, and so but it wasn't said in a funny way. It wasn't said in a it was just bad. And so like a lot of the characters who aren't the main characters aren't as good as I would hope them to be.
Mhm.
Because like I think Spike is great so far. I think Spike is great, the way he sounds, the way
Mhm.
he acts, his mannerisms. Like this actor has done a really good job. He's done his homework. And same thing with Jet. Like there's some things that I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of see where you're, the acting isn't meshing up as well. But then at the same time, this isn't necessarily supposed to be just like the anime. And I think in some aspects that's a good thing because the anime is superior. The more that you copy the anime, like for instance, I saw on Twitter a lot of people talking about a certain scene. I didn't get to the scene myself, but Netflix showed the scene where they're fighting in front of the stained glass mirror, or I'm sorry, window,
Mhm.
and they put it side by side with the anime. And the anime, the fast cuts are so much better than what's in the live action show that I'm like,
Totally.
why even add this scene? This is just it's fan service, but all it does is makes and not the bad fan service, but it's
Right.
fan service, but all
Still
it does is
Sabisu.
right, it makes me want to see the anime. It doesn't make me want to look at the live action. I
Yeah.
think you need to veer off. Like still have this moment where they fight each other, but veer off and don't try to copy because you're not able to do it or you're not able to cut the way that they do their fast cuts in anime and it comes off as just very bland and very useless of a scene, honestly, other than the fact that like,
Mhm.
hey, this scene was in the anime. Remember that scene? It does nothing for us, but do you remember? You cool? All right, cool. That's what that does to me. And I so like when those scenes happen, I'm like, no, this is not a good thing. Let's not
Mhm.
do that. But when they don't do that, they've changed up some things, the order of when characters meet, how they interact with each other, and stuff like that, which is actually pretty cool because it allowed me to be surprised. Seeing Faye as soon as we saw her, I was like, "Oh, okay, you're here," and
Mhm.
okay, you know what I'm saying? Because like, if we're following the beats of the anime, you know that she doesn't show up right away, and
Mm.
so it was cool to see
Episode
her.
3.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, episode 3. It's cool to see her early, because I'm like, okay, now I'm looking for new stuff. Like,
Mhm.
what are you trying to say outside of the anime, or are you trying to say the same things but in your own way? Unfortunately, and I think this is probably going to happen throughout the rest of the show. When they mesh up too close to the anime, you start to compare, and when you compare, the anime always wins. It's just a
Mhm.
better show. And so I think they should have gone even more. And I know that would have pissed some people off, but honestly, you have to think about it. If you can't duplicate the anime or do it better, all you're gonna do is come up with comparisons where it feels lazy, it feels like it's just fan service, or it feels like you just didn't know what you were doing, but you need to have these scenes and it doesn't work. That's one of the biggest criticisms from uh, the Resident Evil film that came out recently, where it's like, other than the fact that it stuffs Resident Evil 1 and 2, the stories into one film, is the fact that a lot of it is fan service. Like they just keep showing, clips or basically, scene for scene from the game. But if you don't make a good film or you don't make a good show first and then add in the fan stuff, it just comes out as it's just, okay, that was a cool moment, but where's the rest of the story? Like this, that's all I
Yeah.
got. You know what I'm saying? So when Cowboy Bebop does that, I'm like, oh God, can we not? Can we not do that? And then there's the fighting. Okay, so Cowboy Bebop has really good fighting in the anime. I want to
Mhm.
stress that.
Mhm.
And the film, the Cowboy Bebop movie, has really good fight scenes.
Yep.
Not so much here, and not because they are hard, like it's cut horribly. Thank goodness that they don't do that outside of the vicious fight. But
Mm.
it moves so slow that I feel like there's a lot of like kinetic energy loss to the point where the fights are dull. Like there's
Yep.
a early fight in a restroom with a hitman,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, this might be interesting. And he has a blade, like a hidden blade or whatever, and he has a gun. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be kind of cool. And it wasn't. It was very slow paced punching and kicking.
Mhm.
And even like the slow motion didn't feel like slow motion because the rest of the fight was slow. Like it just
Yeah.
felt like you guys were practicing your choreography. You weren't actually ready to fight yet. You were just practicing. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a punch here, and then you're gonna block here. That's what it
Oh,
felt
yeah.
like.
I'm pretty sure that they don't know that that's what ended up in the final cut.
Oh well, that they can't be happy at that. They really can't. And I don't. Maybe something happened. I don't know. I know COVID obviously affected a lot of filming and whatnot. But I don't know exactly. I don't know who thought these fight scenes were good, but a lot of it isn't. And not even like I like to kind of give you like a reference. I like old kung fu movies
Mhm.
where the fights, the punching and kicking is very deliberate, and they move at a certain pace, a rhythm, kind of like the Matrix, but much slower. And so there's some stiff movements there, but there's always like this Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon element where they like are floaty and all this other stuff. So it is slower, but when they punch, there's like an impact. You feel it,
Mhm.
like you see the dust come off their shirt when they
Mhm.
get punched in the chest. I didn't feel any of that. I didn't believe Spike was hurt when he got kicked in the face. Didn't believe it at all
Yeah, he
because
wasn't hurt.
it was such a yeah. So out beyond those things, I'm enjoying the show for what it is. I know that's kind of a cop out, and really I can only say
Mhm.
that because I haven't finished it, so I can't give it a full yay or nay. But
Mhm.
for what it is, I'm like, you know what? This reminds me of a sci-fi channel B whatever that is quirky and could be
Oh god.
fun just for because some of it is one of those things where like you watch it, you're not gonna entertain it for too much longer. You're just gonna watch. You know what? That was a cool Friday night. I had some popcorn. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that you're gonna because you're not expecting it to be great. And I know that sounds like I'm dissing whoever, but I didn't expect this. I thought I was happy when I saw the cast, but I didn't expect better than the anime. The only thing I was worried about was like just be decent. Like just be have a reason to exist. That's all I wanted. And so far it's doing that for me. However, I'm pretty sure there's a turning point based on how Tess feels about it. So I will let her speak now.
So, there's no turning point for me. It was bad from jump. I know that I can be hypercritical. That's just who I am. In fact, I think me being hypercritical is my strongest suit. I think it's my best quality. And it's not because I'm an asshole or it's not because I don't know anything. It's just because I'm so into detail and I'm just so into minutia, and I don't know, I was born that way and I can't help it. It also is something that makes me enjoy things less, i.e. what I just said about Arcane. I was so hypercritical that I ended up not liking the first 3 episodes and literally had to watch the whole show to realize that I was wrong. And then I went back and enjoyed it like I should have in the first place. Because again, I have mental deficiencies and sometimes I need to correct myself. Me not liking this is not part of my mental deficiency. Me not liking this is because this is bad television. I do not like this show. I think it is bad television. I never liked those B-rated sci-fi shows. I hated them. I'm like, because I don't know that there's something in me about sci-fi since I was a child. I think it goes back to me being like 3 years old and always wanting to travel to the stars. The stars are space is this wild beauty to me. You know, it's like those pictures in the science books where they would show you a nebula. And there's something in me that always believes that it needs to be that awesome. And so I
Right.
think I used to get really upset when I saw something scientific that I didn't like a sci-fi show that didn't meet my fancy. So I get excited when I see sci-fi that I like. This is not one of them. I will say, like, so we are going to have another discussion on Cowboy Bebop later, especially after Kenny finishes the show, because there
Yeah.
are so many things to talk about. And again, we will have another guest on the show to talk about that as well. But I want to say, for the 3 episodes that Kenny has seen, and I do understand that, you know, it meets your expectations. It didn't meet mine okay, let me put it like this. It met a little bit because the first preview that I saw, right? I was so
Right.
excited, right? And I was like, yay. But I noticed things in the preview that I allowed, like, and I'm saying I watched and I said, I'll allow it. Because I saw stuff in the preview that I didn't like. I was like, you know, when I saw like the gun shooting, and I'm like, they animated over real life to make it look cooler. If you have to do that, that should show you that there's something wrong. And I'm saying this because this is a live action. This is not an anime, right?
Right.
So if you have to animate your intro, they animated over. You know what I'm saying? You're an illustrator.
Right. Right.
You animated over stuff you shot to make it look cooler. There's a problem there. If you couldn't make it look cool in a live shot, then what the hell are you doing a live action for? And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Even the part where Daniela Pineda, she's kneeling down in the beginning and then she turns her body with the gun.
Right.
I was like, why did they do this so slow? Why did they shoot that so slow? I was like, this is like a bad 70s show. This is like Dolomite, but worse. Like Dolomite's good. I felt like I was like, and I do understand that, you know, Cowboy Bebop's genre, spaghetti western, you know, space opera, jazz fusion, like I understand the purpose of this show and 70s spy thriller. I get it. But it seemed from the preview, from the trailer, that this was going to be like Dick Tracy, but not. And Dick Tracy is Dick Tracy. Like, this is Cowboy Bebop. And so I was like, I just started noticing these blank pauses, and I'm like, something's not okay. And this is just from the trailer. And even when they had like Spike running and when they had Jet running in the intro, I was like, why is he running like that? Because in the animated version, he wasn't running like stupid. He was literally running. He's like, I gotta get the hell out of here. You know, John Cho's running like an idiot. Like, somebody told him, like, you, like, literally somebody's sitting in the back saying, can you do that again, but run stupider? And then the same thing with Jet. Like, they have Jet like basically having a belly. he has like a belly, like a little beer belly. And I'm sitting here like, wasn't Jet's nickname like Rock something? Like because he's so freaking thick, and it looked like he was struggling to run. And I was like, and this is just from the intro, y'all. So I was a little like worried. I really was. And then the other thing I noticed from the intro was the camera angles and the blocking or the what were you the framing.
Right.
And so I started noticing that, and I was like, okay. And I also noticed some coloring issues, like things that I had. I was like, this looks low budget stuff. When you can see the studio. Like I watched soap operas growing up. Okay, it's always in studio. Even when the
Yeah.
scenes that they have that are outside, you can tell the studio lights are on them.
Yeah.
So like it just looked like there were studio lights in places, but then also like very dark at times. And I'm sitting here like, what's the purpose of this? Because I'm trying to figure out the purpose because I'm like, okay, this type of shot wasn't, well, I shouldn't like the dark shot wasn't in the anime. Like, and I am not saying that you need to follow the anime. The beautiful thing about Cowboy Bebop was that, and I'm saying this, it was a perfect example of how a show can be under 30 minutes and it gets its message across every time. It's episodic in nature, and that allows the story to have a certain type of freedom. You can
Right.
utilize the characters, what they represent in different situations instead of having canonical situations.
Right.
Like you can create these characters' personas and then insert them into situations, and you will have a good show every time. And we had what, like 20 episodes of non-canon, like 20 episodes of just episodic stuff. And
Yeah, it was
only a
only the
few,
overarching stuff with Spike and Vicious that were prolonged.
right.
You might get a little bit of backstory for certain characters, but for the most part, like Faye not having amnesia and stuff like
Yeah.
that, being I think what 50 years old or something like that, because she was suspended in animation. So like
Yeah.
you get that backstory and that it kind of comes back every so
Hmm.
often. But
Right.
yeah, every other episode is like the life of Cowboy Bebop, or like the Cowboys is it's random, if you will.
Very random, and it works really well for a ragtag bunch. See, the
Right.
one thing that I feel as viewers is that, well, at least most viewers, because there are definitely the ones who don't get it. There is a sentiment behind this show. I understand it. You understand it, Kenny. A lot of us understand it. We are diehard fans. I own the series. I've been had this. I'm one of the people who bought them off of that website back in the day where that kid in Hong Kong was making all them videos. Okay. So anyway, point is, like, we understand the gist of this show. It does not seem like the creative directors did. I don't think that the showrunners, the writers, the director, I don't think any of them understood what the show was truly about. I think they just thought it was a campy space spaghetti western, and they wanted to that Netflix threw their money at, because Netflix just has the anime game on lock right now, and they're just
Yeah.
throwing money at projects, and that's so unfair, because this isn't just a disservice to fans. It was a disservice to so many people who could have gotten onto the show because the show is good. I personally do not see how you couldn't make something decent from what you had. The show was already set up to be a decent live action adaptation because it's simple. The show is complex, but if you just take the characters for who they are, their actual stories, you can stick them anywhere. Jet. Who is Jet? He is a former police officer who's basically had to leave the police service, a guy who lived his life honor bound and had to leave over some BS.
Right.
And and somebody who had a difficult backstory with a woman that he loved who left him. All four of these people had storylines that were not complete, but they had a life together. They built a life together, right?
Yeah.
Spike was part of a murderous syndicate that he didn't want to be part of anymore. He wanted to leave. He wanted to run away with the girl he loved, and it didn't happen that way. They tried to kill his ass. He managed to run away. He managed to get away, and has kind of been living the last several years of his life like, am I really living or not? Because he knows part of his life is still back there. he still has a past that he's not really facing at the moment. One thing that truly bothers me in this show is this relationship between Spike and Jet and Faye. It seems like they don't like each other at all. The three of them don't like each other. And I don't mean just the boys not liking Faye, because we know that that's in the show, in the anime. Jet and Spike don't like each other. And it's annoying. It actually truly, truly bothers me, because it's the kind of stuff where you're like, Spike, can you please just tell him what's wrong with you? Because at least in the show, everything that was done in the show was done better, just like you said. But in the show, Spike didn't tell Jet everything about him, but it worked.
Right.
Like, he was smart enough to give enough information so that Jet's not hounding him all the damn time. And so that it doesn't play into their everyday relationship. In this show, it's almost like every episode, what aren't you telling me? How come I don't know this about you? And I was like,
Yeah. It
what the
was really odd with the like, for instance, when Jet Spike leaves to go to like the noodle shop,
yeah,
air quotes, and he's like, who leaves for 6 hours and turns their phone off? I'm like, this is a moment we should have. Like, we should be talking. This isn't something
yeah,
where you just brush off, because that is weird. Who
yeah,
leaves for 6 hours to go to the noodle shop that's like not far away and
yeah,
turns their phone off if you're supposed to be partners? Whereas
right,
the anime would be like, like, no, I'm going to shoot someone. And it just happened to, I ran into these people. Like, he gave enough information that Jet wasn't, Jet knew he wasn't telling everything, but he
yeah,
wasn't necessarily lying to him either. Whereas this is like, it's almost like they play Jet for a
a
fool,
fool.
because he just goes
And
along with it.
and it's annoying because I'm like, that's not the Jet, because it makes Jet seem kind of like whiny
Yeah,
and not whiny but overbearing, and I'm like, that's not character. Let me also say this: Jet outshined everybody for me, because I'm like, well, he, first of all, I think he had like the most lines, but like, I felt like he really, really stayed true. Like, there were some parts where it seemed like he was spitting out his lines, but that's probably because he had too many. And the director clearly sucks. Okay, the director's trash. Sorry, you're
oh
trash,
man,
director. You're
that's
trash.
that is hey, say it with your chest. Like,
Exactly. And I'm saying this with a migraine coming on, y'all, but I'm saying this because I really feel this. I'm like, you're trash, because at, like, I think Jet was doing the best with what he could work with, and they threw the kitchen sink in on his character. What the hell? He's married to his ex-wife is some white woman with a child that he's not allowed to see. What kind of bullshit is this?
yeah, I didn't get like, that was in the end of season 3, because, or not, sorry, season 3, episode 3. I didn't understand why this part was added, and how they changed Hassan's character. I think it's Hassan.
Hakeem.
No, Hakeem. How they changed Hakeem's character to
Yeah.
be so freaking dopey. Like, I didn't, and I get it,
I
because like some of it
dumb.
is very much a, in terms of like the media, like, this works for anime because we kind of just let it go.
Mhm.
And for live action, having a dog that's like genetically altered and all this other stuff, I can understand not wanting to go down that road, storing of information in dogs and whatnot.
Mhm.
But this wasn't better. It really wasn't.
Nope.
And having this secondary storyline with Jet, I guess they were trying to humanize him more with having a daughter. It just it just flips everything in a weird way. Like, I just felt
Mhm.
like, why are you even with a and shout out to it was very diverse, the cast and everything, but I
Oh,
just,
totally.
as a, I guess, I don't know, black person, being that Jet is black because you made him
Mhm.
black.
'Cause you
This
made
this
him
is
black.
this isn't just like a you didn't just swap characters in a way that could just work. Like, this isn't like, I can't even think, like, someone who's was one race and it doesn't matter for their story, whereas Jet, this actually does matter, making him black in this world.
Mhm.
And you gotta kind of have to understand what that means when you make him black. You can't, not every story works having him like, and not to say that there aren't single mothers, there aren't single fathers and all the other stuff, but having him with everything falling apart and then having, a daughter on the side or whatever the case may be, it doesn't the optics don't work all the time.
No.
And in
Mm-mm.
this case, they don't really work for me, because I'm pretty sure, and granted, I haven't seen the rest of it, but I'm sure
Mhm.
that they don't. they don't continue to come back to this.
Oh,
I could
just
be
keep
wrong.
watching. Just keep
Okay,
watching.
because I feel like it's like let's humanize him in a way that the anime didn't, but the show did. These
It
people
did.
are all were all messed up. That's the point. They
Mhm.
had rough backgrounds.
Yep.
We don't need extra characters to kind of make them human. They were already human.
They were already human and they all came full circle in the show. So it's like it's disappointing because we got 26 episodes of basically 20-minute show, 30, 30-minute TV spots, but
Right.
about 20 minutes, 26 episodes. I don't know what made them think that they should make 1 hour episodes, give us 10 1 hour episodes. I don't know.
Probably Netflix. That was probably on Netflix. Like if we're gonna green
Netflix
light
being
this,
dumb.
well, because think about it, they're like we need people to stay on this, and we need it to be like our other shows, like Stranger Things or whatever, or Glow, and so
Hmm.
all of those shows are an hour, and what happens is the because they kind of count their stats based on how soon people jump on a show and how
Hmm.
long they stay on the show.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure, and
That's
granted,
true.
it could have been, but I do want to give them a little credit in that sense that they could have had a script written where it was shorter, and
Hmm.
Netflix was like, spice this up. We got to keep it moving. We got to get hours. We got to get people binging this stuff. Um, and so that's kind of unfortunate because it does hinder unless you go a different direction, which is what they should have done. But
Which is, yeah, they should have done it.
if you're gonna do that, go all the way. Don't do this half and half stuff because
Hmm.
you don't service either. You don't do one or the other better or well, if you will. But
Yeah,
anyways, yeah,
it was that, like, the choices that they made were so disappointing because it was like at one point it was like, oh, they're going to do their own thing, just like you said, like bringing Faye into the first episode, which I think was a mistake, but it seemed like they were going to do their own thing. You're right in saying, oh, okay, well, she's here, so maybe this is going to go in a different direction. I'm excited because I got that feeling too
yeah,
until they, and I'm, excuse my French, they fucked up that episode. We talked about this before on our show. We have an episode where we called it favorite firsts or something.
yes,
Wasn't that what it was called?
yep,
And we talked about our favorite first episodes, and Cowboy Bebop was one of them
yep,
because it's so good. How do you open a show with two fugitives, two people on the run, a woman in love, and her boyfriend is just on the outs, like really doing the absolute most. Okay, y'all done stole the red eye. He done taken the red eye. It's too much. He's basically abusive towards you.
right,
They are, they are running. Hold on, before I even get there, when the bullet clips her stomach and the red eye falls out of the fake pregnant belly, he doesn't say, "Babe, are you okay?" He doesn't go down there he says, "Be careful. If you break those, we'll be in trouble." Like that's what he says in the anime.
right,
That's horribly fucked up. She almost just died. A
yeah,
bullet literally clipped her stomach. And she grabs all the red eye, jumps in the ship, and of course he's trying to escape, so he pops more red eye and he's out of control. And what does she do? She shoots the man in the head. That's
yeah,
the first episode. She shot her boyfriend before the cops could.
right,
And then she gets killed because they blow up her ship. That is the first episode. It's not funny.
yeah,
It's serious. It shows it just throws you into the world of bounty hunting, the desperation, the people that they're after. Like, I mean, we can talk about bounty hunting in our own real life. People who are on the run who have bounties on them. Bounty hunters are, I don't even want to use him, so I'm not going to say his name. But
yeah,
it's a messy business. It's a messy business. And people are desperate. So to show these two desperate people and the lengths that they had gone to, and the last bit of desperation, which is murder suicide, is extremely dark. And that even though the show gives us these lovely, hilarious moments to lighten the story, it's not a light, happy story. It's not. And
right,
we've talked about the anime so many times. We also know how it ends with Spike like face down with bullets in his chest.
Right.
This is not a happy show per se. There are funny moments to a dark space comedy. I mean,
Space drama.
a space drama. So why did, like, for me, that makes me truly feel that the creative director, the creative team on this show through and through did not understand this anime, or they just chose to do something else, but they thought they could use the same lines or the same stories or something to tell their new story. It doesn't make sense.
That doesn't work
at all. And the issue that I have with them bringing Faye in is that we know Faye's story. Faye's story is sad as hell. This is a woman who went into cryosleep. She was woken up, has amnesia, was hoodwinked and swindled by a man who married her and made her take on his debt. That's what's in the anime. She has more debt than the bounty that's on her own head. She is working in a casino to try to pay down her debt. She's doing whatever she can on her own. She is a independent, badass woman. Does she get into trouble all the time? Absolutely. That's because she can't trust anybody. She's on her own. This is a woman who literally has no one. She has no one. Coming across the guys in the Bebop wasn't like, oh, this is a haven for me, but this is like, can I swindle these guys? And she tries, understandably. Is Faye Valentine annoying? Absolutely. She is. However, she was so badass in the show, you can't help but like her. You can't help but be happy that she's there. Like in episode 3 or something with the space rats, she truly shows up to help. Like she shows her mettle. She shows that she's truly worth being part of the team, which is why they let her stay. And all you see, even within the first 3 episodes, is that she's annoying as hell. Her language is like a teenager. And like, I know Faye curses in the Japanese version. They all curse in the Japanese version. But I don't remember, and my Japanese isn't great, okay? But I don't remember her saying half the shit that she says in this like, I just don't even understand what the point is. Like, I'm so lost. I really am. Like, she's just like, every other word out of her mouth is just something that a 15-year-old would say, and not even a 13-year-old would say in middle school. Balls. That's what she's like. Balls, numb nuts. And it's just like, it's it just keeps coming out of her mouth. And there's some things that some other people have said online about, like they changed Faye's outfit because they didn't want it to be like, obviously we all know what her outfit looks like in the cartoon. So, I thought the outfit was actually cute with the shorts. I mean, they still gave her a yellow shirt, and I like the stockings, because I used to be a stockings girl. I used to wear stockings all the time, like all different types of prints. Yeah, I got a lot of comments on that at work, but besides the point. I work for the government. It's very boring. But then next thing you know, like they want to put Faye's clothes back on, but then instead of her just being like sexy Faye, where she was always using her sex because that's how she empowered herself, Faye knew she was gorgeous. Faye knew she looked good. She used her body to do whatever she needed to do. And even there was that one episode in the cartoon where she's like tanning, like she like, all that's they redo it in the show so poorly. And I'm like, so you guys want to make sure that Faye keeps her clothes on, but then there's so many other sexual references in the show that go way, way over just Faye wearing a skimpy ass outfit. I'm telling you, like, I watched the show and I am so confused, because at one point you think, oh, they want to do their own thing. But then at another point, they're taking the original stories and then just shredding them. And you haven't gotten to see the what becomes of Vicious. But and again, we'll have another conversation. But this is just this is so bad that I don't know what to say. I know what to say. I do know what to say later when we talk more about it. But I do not, for the life of me, understand why they thought what they produced, these 10 episodes that they gave us, was okay. Because it made no sense. It just does not make sense. It's like, and I know that's just me. I know I kind of ranted there. I probably didn't give all of the specifics that I have written down. I mean, I have specifics, but like I just went on a rant. I mean,
the gist of it is makes sense in the sense that you're taking something. So if you look at any type of media, like take a film, and there's a strong, powerful scene about something, you pick a topic, and then you take that scene and you remove it from its context. The scene is no longer strong and powerful. Now it's something else. And I with the few episodes that I did see some of that where they took a scene from the anime and they shoved it into what they've created in the live action, and it doesn't work well because there was context to the scene. It's not just the context of what's happening around the scene in the sense of where the characters are and what they're saying, but it's what's happening, what's the mood, what is it trying to say within that scene, and then the entire episode, everything from the title of the episode to the credits, maybe not the credits, but the final scenes actually mean something. And so when you have someone doing something that's dark, like we talk about the first episode of the anime and how it differs from the first episode of this show and how dark it goes, there's a reason. Like one of the things I was saying about the anime, the first episode, and how much I praised it was because you got, outside of the characters that aren't introduced right away, you get exactly what Cowboy Bebop is going to be going forward.
Forward from there.
You get the hopelessness of the situation. You get the fact that these guys are really good bounty hunters, but they don't get their bounties all the time.
No.
And you also get how they are good people, even though they've been through some, the machine, if you will. They've been roughed up a bit. Jet lost his whole arm because of a botched, investigation. So like you get that the fact that Spike is trying to save this couple because he knows what's coming. Mind you, he wants the bounty. But at the same time, he doesn't want them to die, not because he's going to miss out on the money, because they do that all the time, but because he actually feels for
them.
What they're going to do, because it rivals or mimics a little bit of what he was going through with Julia. And so there's a reason it sets these things up for later. It sets up what's to come for later. And even though I like I said, it's been mildly, enjoying. I've been enjoying it mildly. I did notice that. I'm like, no, this does not set up what we think it should set up.
No.
And so in my head, I'm like, hopefully this will be justified later on.
No, it's not.
And apparently it's not. And I don't. And I will say though, one thing I didn't like outside of like the fighting and some of the treatment was I don't like Vicious. I don't like this version of Vicious.
So upset. Okay, please. Look, I have to say this because I told you this. I think in that episode. I love Vicious. He's like my favorite character. He's like my favorite villain. I freaking love Vicious. Always have. My friends back when I worked at the anime store could tell you that. Like I'm not even joking. Like and I do typically have a soft spot for villains because the reason I like villains is because they move the story forward. That's typically what they are. Vicious is a little bit different in that because Vicious is mysterious. He doesn't show up all the time. And when he does, he's extremely menacing. Do not forget the episode where he showed up and Faye was at the bar and Faye was shaking. Like, Faye, like, did I not just spend 5 whole minutes talking about how much of a badass Faye is? And Vicious shows up and the woman is literally shaking. Yeah. And I think it's very important to show not how smart Vicious is. The man takes over a syndicate. He's smart. He is cunning. He has people who adore him. He has all the things that he wants. He gets things done. He also seems to not have a problem with betraying. Like he's really one of those villains that you kind of want to write. He's one of those villains you kind of want to love. You're like, damn, I want to be him. I mean, you don't because you're a good person, but like if you weren't a good person, you'd want to be him. And so I like him for that. I don't necessarily like, let me just make this clear. I don't like villains because they're evil, because I don't like
Right.
evil people. I really don't. But I have always looked at characters for how they're written and how they're developed more than what they just show up on TV as.
Right.
That's just me because I'm an analytical person. So that's why I've always liked Vicious. So when I watched this Vicious, and I was really sad for the actor because I think honestly, I actually think a bunch of them are good actors. I think that he's actually a good actor. What he was given to work with as Vicious, like, I mean, honestly, I think he did a great job portraying the Vicious that they wanted. They wanted a
Yeah.
whiny little bitch with daddy problems. He gives us that every episode. He delivers. Oh, whiny ass bitch. That's what he is. How is your name Vicious and you are all of the words that I'm not going to say, but your name is Vicious and you're a whiny ass punk.
Oh my gosh.
Bleep, 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 bleep. Like you are seriously all of the bleeps and your name is Vicious. Like that
Yep.
in what world is that? And that's why I'm saying it makes no sense. I was listening to not listening. I was watching this and I'm like, and I was getting a headache. I was literally getting a headache watching it. And I was like, what did you guys do to my favorite character? And I was just so, and mind you, Vicious actually kind of ties with Ed for me. Ed and Ein are the same person, by the way, for me. And Vicious because I love it. Like, and I'm sorry, again, that's just who I am, people. I'm a polar opposite type person. So if I love Vicious, I'm gonna love Ed. So anyway, yeah, that's who we got. And I'm telling you, I feel for the actor because I don't know what their lives are going to be like. I've already heard that they're getting mad hate. You know, I know John Cho got hate for being 50 years old almost, you know, and playing like, you know, Spike, who's like 27. But, you know, it is what it is. I know Daniela Pineda is going to get shit because I know people are going to be like, oh, you can't act. And I just feel like these people, they did the best with what they got. Well, like except the girl who plays Julia, because she just can't act. So forget her. But everybody else, I think they did their best. But nah, man, they destroyed who Vicious is. The person, the actual lore of Vicious, the person that he is not this guy. This guy's name should not be Vicious. They just should have given him another name. I mean, they named Spike Fearless.
Yeah,
God, that's annoying.
I went through the whole anime because I was like, was that a thing and I just missed it?
No.
It's like,
It wasn't.
why are you doing this? Just
It was never a thing.
stop it.
It was literally Spike because I mean, I thought that he did have another name at one point because I feel like I remember that in the anime, but I remember people calling him Spike. But
Yeah.
I think he had another. He probably had another name before he joined the Syndicate. He changed his name to Spike when he was in the Syndicate. Maybe I don't remember, but anyway, that Fearless shit is bullshit. And I'm sorry, like John Cho, I do love you, okay, but you seen 3 episodes of him being laid back Spike. It's one note. It's one note. Spike is not one note. And that's what really bothers me. It shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't, because it's just like you can't just get the laid back, chill Spike. Is Spike apathetic at the end of the day? Yes. Okay, because he's got some trauma that he needs to work through. But he's not just laid back. He's super, he's also really fun. And he's a bit of a dick. But, like, you know, him walking around with the headphones all the time kind of just started getting to me because I'm like, Spike only used the headphones a couple of times. in the show and like in the series, and I was just like, so they're just using it to like further the music every time,
Oh yeah.
and it's just I honestly, like I said, I have so many complaints about this show, so many, so many, and this just being a punk is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Freaking punk. It's just God. There's so much wrong. There's so much wrong. But sorry. That lets you know that it's time to go. We could be here forever talking about how much I hate this show and how much Kenny is mediocre on it, or is satisfied at the moment.
Oh no,
Um,
I am. I was 100% ready to finish and forget. Like, oh, that was okay, and then forget about it. Whereas
yeah,
good media, you kind of like you want to own, you want to watch again, you want to talk
yeah,
about. Like that's not where I was going. But I wasn't at the hate part. I hadn't jumped over the fence at that part yet. But like I
yeah.
said, I'm only 3 episodes in, so we'll see. We'll see. But
You're like da, da,
yes.
da.
Man, you never know. Like you come back next week and be like, okay, you were right. You were right. We'll
Look,
see.
the only thing they got right was I'm
And that's mad easy. Uh
seriously, go steal a corgi from the queen and boom, you've got Einstein.
yes.
So
But yeah, I'm looking forward to at the very least seeing Ed.
mm.
And see how they seeing how they do, how they treat Ed. But yeah, that is our show for today. Um thanks for hanging out. Uh
Sorry, one more thing. I'm sorry. I forgot I had written this down. And guys, I am just to let you know, I've started taking notes while I watch these shows because my memory sometimes goes out and I need so I did write this note. Sometimes it feels like I'm watching a high school stage play, the way the lines are delivered. And
some of the
I
lines are
just
kind of bad.
the lines were bad, but it felt like watching a play. Like it and I was very clear to make sure that I said high school.
Right. You know what?
I
I think that so there with me, I know like, and also being that I've written reviews, and I guess my it always comes to my expectation and what was the goal of whatever the thing is you created, right? Like
Mhm.
I know that, for instance, I like the Speed Racer film. I'm not
I
super
loved it.
critical, right? I'm not super critical on it because I what they were trying to do
They
was
accomplished.
yeah, they accomplished it. So then from there we have to debate whether or not what they accomplished was actually good. And that's a whole nother thing.
Mhm.
But at the very basic, the bottom level of everything, you accomplish something. So if your goal is to create a meaningful, thought-provoking piece of film and it fails on all that, it doesn't matter how good the acting is, it doesn't matter how good the shots are, you failed at your basic goal. So I'm going to be more critical. I'm going to be more critical on that versus like a comedy that's supposed to be dumb. If I'm saying it's
Mhm.
dumb, well, yeah, it's almost like
Mhm.
there was a guy who reviewed the movie 300, and he was like, all the guys had like sprayed on abs, like everyone was so abbed and so big and muscular, and
Mhm.
that was like a con for him. And I'm like, they're supposed to be
What?
Spartans. They're Spartans. They literally toss babies away if they didn't come out with a six pack. How are you?
Yeah.
What? You know what I'm saying? Like your expectations have to kind of, and that's not to say that you can't have basic expectations in terms of going from A to B in terms of telling a story, right?
Mhm.
However, how you get to A to B can go all over the place, bi-
Mhm.
based on what you're trying to deliver to the audience. So I'm very much okay with, if you want to make a high school play, if I dig the play, I am very much okay
Mhm.
with that. Some of my favorite
Mhm.
films are B films. I'm a horror fan, so like there's a lot of B in horror.
That's so true.
And so, but at the same time, they work within their budget and they make something that's worth watching, even though it's B, versus
Mhm.
a big budget. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
this was big budget and none of it is good. Um, So yeah, on that note though, I don't know how this is going to shape up for me, um, because if it gets, I would just say this: if it gets worse than what I've seen in these 3 episodes, then yeah, it's going to
Mhm.
go on the. Yeah, this is come on, guys, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is our show again. Thank you for listening to us talk about different content and whatnot. I promise I have heard some people were looking for us to talk about more video game stuff, and part of that is on me because again I do everything I do for the most part is
Mhm.
video game related, and so with this show, outside of like writing reviews about films, this show helps me navigate other aspects of my nerddom. I don't
Mhm.
have to talk about games all the time here, and so that I don't. So I will be bringing up some stuff that isn't, you know, laced in drama like Activision and Blizzard. I will be
Mhm.
talking about some other game stuff and, you know, some good news in terms of the gaming world like we have before. So I will be talking about that, but we are going to still hit up all these different shows because there's just so many. There's more shows than games right now. And so we will be coming back, talk about more Cowboy Bebop. We're going to be talking about uh, potentially Hawkeye because I'm a big fan of,
Mhm.
at the very least, the idea of what they're doing, and
Mhm.
I like these characters in the comic. And there's also movies coming out. The Matrix 4 is going to be coming out pretty soon,
Mhm.
and Resident Evil dropped. I'm going to be seeing that. So yeah, there's going to be some game related and movie related stuff that we're going to be debating or not debating. We pretty much agree on most stuff. So
We agree
yeah,
on a bunch of stuff.
we're just going to be talking stuff. That's
I
basically
mean,
it.
when season 2 of Black as Fuck comes out, we might disagree, but
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the one thing we, we disagree on. I'm like, really,
ah,
man? Like,
that's my
really?
show. That's my show.
Stop it! Stop it! But yeah, definitely. If you're catching us on YouTube on United Front Gaming, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you're catching the show on any other DSP like the Apple, iTunes or Google Podcasts, feel free to add us to your RSS feed so you know when the show pops up. And also, we're on Verbal now. Verbal, the show pops up. I want to say like a day later
Mhm.
after we go everywhere else. They're a little bit newer. They're like they say that they're the YouTube of audio. So
Hmm.
with that being a big claim, they kind of have to work to get to that or work to keep that up. So
Yeah.
I assume that's what's happening when it's pulling the RSS feed. It just takes them a little bit longer than the other ones that have been doing it longer. And so, but you can catch us if you're listening on Verbal, you can catch us over there as well, the Gamecast, and feel free to follow the Gamecast at the Gamecast 1 on Twitter. We has a couple of new followers pop up, and
Cute.
looking at the stuff that we're talking about and interested. I've been posting some comic book stuff that I've been reading over there. So basically, a lot of cool nerd stuff that we've been doing, and I think that's about it for housekeeping.
Okay. That's really it for me, guys. I know that I got to get out of here because I have a migraine and it's not going to get better soon. So thanks for listening to us. Thanks for putting up with us. Again, thanks for my rants and ramblings. They can go off, but that's why I try to keep notes because sometimes I don't know where I am. Remember to wash your hands. Remember to wash your faces and your butts. Use hand sanitizer if you can. Wear your masks, please, and get vaccinated if you can. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks to all of our emergency workers, healthcare workers. We really care about you. And that's really it. We hope to see you next week. Have a good weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, and bye bye.